Hi everyone, thanks for checking out this video. So before we start getting into the the real material for our second project, we're going to start with a quick review of Mendelian genetics. So you guys might remember this from maybe your high school class. This is basically like the first model of genetics and heredity that was proposed by this guy Gregor Mendel, who was a monk back in the 1800s. And so for this quick review, yeah, I want you guys to like temporarily forget everything we've been talking about with like DNA and RNA and proteins and stuff. And yeah, forget all this stuff about like nucleotides and like DNA. It's like a sequence of letters. We're gonna review this topic basically as Gregor Mendel like understood it basically. So yeah, we're gonna review this like more primitive understanding of genetics first. This like earlier understanding before they had all the information we have today. And then in the next video, we're going to update this model of genetics to incorporate what we now know and talk about like where it was right and where it was wrong and like where things are like more complicated. But yeah, for this video, instead of talking about like DNA and sequences of nucleotides, we're just going to talk about flowers basically. And actually, yeah, Gregor Mendel was actually dealing with pea plants. But yeah, just for like visualization purposes, I thought I'd just make it these like blue and white flowers. So yeah, I'll just kind of walk you guys through like a little story here, I guess. So let's say that you have a garden with blue and white flowers. And one day you decide to do a cross-pollination. So you decide to cross-pollinate these blue and white flowers. And when you do that, you notice that the next generation of flowers that you get from that cross is 100% blue flowers. So you crossed a blue and a white flower from your garden, and the resulting generation of like offspring flowers was 100% blue flowers. So then next you take two of these blue flowers from the resulting next generation, and you cross them basically. And when you do that, you see that in the next generation, the third generation that you get from crossing these two blue flowers, you get 75% blue flowers and 25% white flowers. So that seems pretty strange, right? This seems like something unusual because you crossed a blue and a white flower at first and you got 100% blue flowers. But then you took two of those blue flowers and crossed them, and then you got a mix of colors with 75% blue and 25% white. So yeah, it seems to be pretty strange, right? But yeah, we can try to explain what's going on here with Mendel's model of genetics. Yeah, so in Mendelian genetics, a gene is defined as a discrete unit of heredity. So for example, you can talk about a gene for the flower color. So you guys might notice here that this sounds like some pretty vague wording, right? Discrete unit of heredity. What does that even really mean? Yeah, we're not talking here about a gene as being like a segment of DNA like we were before. Like I said, I want you guys to temporarily just forget about DNA. We're thinking as if it's the 1800s and we're Gregor Mendel. So we don't know what DNA is yet. Although, yeah, like I said, in the next video, we're going to update some of these definitions to get them in line with our like modern understanding. But yeah, these definitions are for the Mendelian model of genetics. So yeah, gene is a discrete unit of heredity, which sounds vague and abstract. And then alleles are different versions of a gene. So we could talk about different alleles for the gene for flower color. So for example, in this case, we can talk about like capital B as being the allele for blue flowers, and then lowercase b as being the allele for white flowers. And then each plant in this model has two copies. So basically two alleles for the gene. So they could have like two blue allele copies, or they could have two white allele copies, or they could have one of each. So yeah, they have two copies, and it could be two of the same, either blue or white, or one of each. And if they have two of the same allele, then that allele is the color that they get. So if they have two blue alleles, then they're going to have blue flowers. And then two white alleles, then they'll have white flowers. But if they have one of each, then whichever allele is the dominant allele determines the flower color, basically. So in this case, in this model of these blue and white plants, the blue allele is the dominant allele, which we sort of notate with the capital letters. So you'll see in this way of writing things, usually the dominant allele will be like uppercase, and then the recessive allele, it's called, the one that's not dominant, is lowercase of the same letter. So we don't specify the white allele with a W, we actually specify it with a lowercase b, because it's the recessive allele, and the dominant allele is blue, uppercase B. So yeah, if there's one of each, then the dominant allele determines the color. So if they have one blue allele and one white allele, then they'll get blue flowers. And yeah, the blue allele we just call dominant, and the white allele is recessive in this case. The genotype is what alleles a plant has. So this way of just writing two of the letters, this is just how we would write it. So this uppercase B, that's a genotype of having two blue alleles, basically. Lowercase b, that's another genotype corresponding to two white alleles. And then uppercase B, lowercase b, that's a genotype corresponding to one of each, which leads to blue flowers because the blue allele is dominant. So yeah, genotype is what alleles a plant has, and then the phenotype is the plant's color, so blue or white in this case. And the cool thing about this model is that if we're doing a cross between two plants and we know their genotypes, then we can predict what distribution of colors the resulting generation of flowers will have. Because when you cross two flowers, each of the offspring, descendant flowers in the next generation gets one allele from each parent flower. So yeah, so each flower in the resulting generation will also have two copies, where one copy comes from each parent flower, basically. So if we're crossing two flowers and we know their genotypes, we can set up what's called one of these Punnett squares, they're called. You guys might remember these again from high school. So this is an example of a Punnett square for a cross between a flower with two blue alleles and then two white alleles. And if we just set up the table like this, then we can see in this cross, what are all the possible combinations that a offspring flower in the following generation could have. And in this case, crossing a flower with two blue alleles and one with two white alleles, we can see when we do this Punnett square that the only possible combination to get in the offspring generation is having one of each, because all of the offspring flowers are going to get one blue allele from the blue parent flower, basically, and then one white allele from the white parent flower. So all of the quarters of this table here are uppercase B, lowercase b, which corresponds to one allele of each color. Which means that since blue is dominant, they're going to be blue. So if you cross these two flowers, the next generation will be all blue flowers. And then this Punnett square on the right side shows what happens if you cross two flowers where they both have one blue allele and one white allele. So when we do this cross, we can see that the different quarters of this Punnett square are actually different in a way that's interesting. So basically 25% of the offspring flowers would have two blue alleles. And then 50%, because there's this quarter here and then this quarter here, would have one blue allele and one white allele. causing them to be blue because the blue allele is dominant. And then 25% about, again, this is like, the real thing would be like a random distribution. So these percentages could be off a bit due to chance, but this is like a predicted percentage basically. But yeah, like 25% would have 2 white alleles. So now that we have this model, we can now revisit our previous results, and now they don't seem so strange actually. Because yeah, this is just the same as the previous slides, except now I've like just put some notation about the genotypes of these flowers we're crossing. So the first cross was between a blue flower with 2 blue alleles and a white flower with 2 white alleles. And when we do that cross, we get 100% flowers that have 1 blue allele and 1 white allele. Because yeah, they're getting 1 allele copy from each parent flower basically. And then for the next cross, we're then crossing these 2 flowers where each one has 1 blue allele and 1 white allele. And then again, I've just put this notation of in the final generation, the percentages that explain this like 75% blue, 25% white flower distribution. Yeah, like we showed in the Punnett square, the blue flowers are made up of the 1 quarter that had 2 blue alleles, and then the 2 quarters or 50% that had 1 blue allele and 1 white allele. And then the 25% of white flowers are the 25%, like the quarter of that Punnett square that had 2 white alleles, basically. So yeah, this is no longer so strange and mysterious. We now can understand what's going on with these distributions of flower colors based on this Mendelian model of genetics. And yeah, so I just repeated this slide basically, just to like yeah, remind you guys of all these terms we just defined. Again, this is like this was like an early like primitive model of genetics and heredity. So yeah, some of these things are defined in like very abstract terms. It's like gene, like discrete unit of heredity. Yeah, it's like very abstract. In the next video, we're going to get into updating some of these definitions and like updating this model to account for what we now have since learned about genetics and like DNA and things like that, basically. So yeah, that'll be for the next video. We'll be updating this model of genetics to incorporate all the knowledge that we now have. Okay, so thanks for watching, and see you guys next time.